A country once believed it had beaten history itself. Every year, ships arrived from across the ocean, loaded with unimaginable wealth. And the people thought, this is it? We are rich forever. But something strange began to happen. The more money that entered the country, the weaker it became. Production slowed, prices exploded, debt multiplied, and the empire slowly poisoned itself with its own fortune. This is not a treasure story. It is a collapse mechanism, because some empires in history were not destroyed by war. They were destroyed by wealth. And the pattern still works the same way today. Easy money arrives, people stop producing, governments spend more, and one day, the ships are delayed, and reality hits. This is the story of fate. To understand this tragedy, we must travel back to a barren, freezing plateau high in the Andes Mountains of modern-day Bolivia. The year is 1545. The location is Potosí. Before this moment, Spain was a powerful nation, but it was not economically invincible. They were a society of warriors fresh from the Reconquista. Deeply religious and hardened by war, they valued the sword over the ledger. But everything changed when a local indigenous man named Diego Gualpa stumbled while chasing a llama. To catch his balance, he grabbed a bush. And when the roots pulled away from the earth, he saw it. Shimmering veins of pure silver. He had found the Cerro Rico, the rich hill. It was a geological freak of nature. It wasn't just a mine. The mountain was practically made of solid silver ore. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived, they couldn't believe their eyes. This was the El Dorado they had been searching for. They immediately set to work, and Potosí transformed from a desolate wasteland into one of the largest cities in the world. Within a few decades, it had a population larger than London or Paris. It was a city of greed, violence, and unimaginable wealth. Perched at 13,000 feet above sea level, where the air was so thin men gasped for breath just walking down the street. But to get the silver out, Spain needed labor. And this is where the economic miracle begins with a human nightmare. The Spanish instituted the Mida system, a mandatory draft of indigenous labor. Tens of thousands of men were forced into the dark, suffocating tunnels. They worked in week-long shifts, not seeing the sun, carrying heavy sacks of or up rickety ladders. It was said that if you squeezed the silver coins of Spain, blood would drip out. The mountain was known locally as the mountain that eats men. But digging the ore was only half the battle. The ore was low grade. To extract the pure silver, the Spanish used a new industrial technology, the mercury amalgamation process. They mixed the crushed rock with toxic mercury and had men trample it with their bare feet. This process was a chemical revolution. It allowed Spain to extract silver at an industrial scale never seen before in human history. The output was staggering. Between 1550 and 1800, Mexico and Peru produced 80% of the world's silver, and most of it went to Spain. They melted it down into bars and minted the most famous coin in history, the piece of 8, the first global currency, the dollar of the Renaissance. Accepted in markets from Shanghai to Seville, from Boston to Bombay. Twice a year, the Flota de Indias, the treasure fleets, gathered in Havana. Massive convoys of galleons, heavily armed, riding low in the water, weighed down by billions in today's money. When they appeared on the horizon off the coast of Spain, church bells rang across the country. The king breathed in relief. The bankers smiled. The party could continue for another year. Spain became the superpower of Europe almost instantly. They had the tercios, the feared infantry squares, undefeated on the battlefield. They built massive cathedrals covered in gold leaf. Charles V, and later Philip II, believed God had chosen Spain to lead the world. But they made a fatal calculation. They looked at their mountains of silver and said, "We are rich." They confused money with wealth. Money is a medium of exchange. Wealth is productive capacity, the ability to grow food, build ships, forge steel, create industry. Spain had found infinite money, but it was about to stop producing wealth. The silver acted like a narcotic. It created a high, a sense of invincibility. But beneath the surface, the economic organs were shutting down. Farmers left the fields. Blacksmiths put down their tools. Why work when the ships are coming? The addiction had begun. Imagine you are a shoemaker in Seville in 1550. The ships arrive. Sailors flood the streets with silver in their pockets. Nobles have money. Soldiers have money. Everyone wants your shoes. So you raise your prices? Now imagine everyone doing the same. Bakers raise bread prices. Landlords raise rents. Weavers raise cloth prices. This was the price revolution, the first major inflationary crisis of the modern era. As silver flooded Spain, the money supply exploded, but production did not. Prices rose by nearly 400%. Wages did not keep up. The poor were crushed. A Spanish peasant could buy less food than his grandfather, even though there was more silver in circulation than ever before. Not because food disappeared, but because money was broken, and inflation made Spanish goods uncompetitive. A French or English shoemaker could produce cheaper shoes. So Spaniards bought imports. Spain became a funnel. Silver arrived in Seville and quickly flowed out to France, England, the Netherlands, and Italy to pay for goods. Spain did the mining, the sailing, the fighting, and handed the money to its rivals. The saying emerged: Spain is the mouth that receives the food, chewing it for the rest of Europe. Everything is expensive in Spain, except silver. Working became dishonorable. The ideal was the hidalgo, a minor noble living off rent, avoiding trade or labor. The dream was proximity to the silver, not productivity, while the Dutch built stock exchanges and the English improved agriculture. Spain built monuments and bought velvet capes. The empire looked golden, but inside, it was hollow. Then came the debt. Philip II fought wars across Europe against the Ottomans, the French, the Dutch, and England. Wars cost money. He borrowed heavily from Genoese and German bankers, using future silver as collateral. High-interest loans, sometimes 20, even 40%. Came the Spanish Armada in 1588, the most expensive naval force ever assembled. Destroyed by storms, poor planning, bad luck, the ships sank, the debt remained. By the 1570s, interest payments exceeded tax revenue. Spain defaulted in 1557, again in 1575, again in 1596. Borrow, default, repeat. When silver ran short, the crown debased the currency, minted copper coins, forced people to accept them as silver. Hidden taxation, hyperinflation. The rich hoarded silver. The poor were left with worthless copper. The middle class disappeared. By the mid-1600s, the Spanish century was over. The mines declined. The economy had no productive foundation. Cities emptied. Fields were abandoned. Spain entered a long economic slumber. Meanwhile, England and the Netherlands used Spanish silver to invest. They built fleets, factories, financial systems. They understood the truth. Wealth is not the metal you extract. It is the productivity you build. Spain drowned in gold. They believed they controlled destiny, but they became slaves to their own fortune. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. In this channel, history doesn't entertain, it warns. And we're here to listen.